Welcome to Prime Perspectives, where Keith Galicia guides you to the financial finish line. As a certified financial planner practitioner, he covers all topics in financial planning. Join him each episode to gain insights and strategies, helping you pursue your financial goals together.
Welcome, everyone, to the Prime Perspective podcast, where our goal is to get you to the financial finish line, whether it's anything from retirement planning, insurance planning, estate planning, or even exit planning as a business owner. And today we have a very special guest. He is the president of the Exit Planning Institute. His name is Scott Snider. He's going to provide us with some insight of what the designation that they offer through their institute can help benefit you as the business owner when you're thinking about planning your exit. So Scott, thanks for showing up today.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the invite.
Absolutely. Well, let's just get right into it.
Sure.
And can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into the exit planning industry?
Sure. Yeah, it's actually fairly interesting. I had my first exit planning lesson, which is really how I got here. And so quick, maybe fun backstory is that I'm not really an advisor at all. I am a business owner. So I started my first company at the age of 16 at the seat in my geometry class, was able to grow that company over the course of about 10 or so years, and then sell it to a strategic buyer, a competitor here in Northeast Ohio that was looking to expand their business, that liked our equipment, our people, our process. And as I'm sure you've probably talked about on the show, one of the most basic concepts of exit planning is that for an owner to really have a fulfilling, significant exit, it's not just about the business, it's about business, personal, and financial elements. And so even though I had a decent business exit, I had a financially sound kind of exit as well. Being a young man, didn't necessarily need a lot. But what I didn't do is any personal planning. And so my first exit planning lesson I always talk about is I really had let my business define who I was. And I spent about a year between the transition of the business and then trying to figure out what was next for me, just wandering around. And I fell into my dad's consulting company, who was one of the first 100 CEPAs certified. So when he said, "Hey, Scott, can you help me grow this practice?" And so I came over to there, and what we quickly realized as we started to all get together was that we shared a passion to help business owners grow more significant companies and have these fulfilling exits. And the way to do that, I think, was to educate the advisory space and bring the advisors together. If we could bring all the advisors together, we can then change owner outcomes. So we ended up buying the Exit Planning Institute in 2012, implementing what's now called the value acceleration methodology into our curriculum, and off we went. And so now we have 7,000 certified exit planning advisors across the country, and another 13,000 advisors are part of our overall community here at EPI. But my background is really as a business owner first.
Absolutely. Well, so let's take maybe a step back. You said your dad was certainly one of the top one, or one of the first 100 CEPAs out there. And can you tell me what inspired the creation of that CEPA designation, and how has it evolved over the years since it's been around?
Another kind of taking a story even back a little bit further. So the business was actually, and the credential itself was founded by two gentlemen named Peter Chrisman and Rich Jackman. And when they got together, they basically owned an investment banking firm. And the story goes that they had ended up selling a company for something crazy like $200 million, right? A big exit, a big liquidity event. And they would do 90-day check-ins with the owner. And so they did a 90-day check-in after the owner sold their company. And when the owner left their office, he felt they kind of, Pete and Rich kind of looked at each other and they said, "What was that guy's problem? He didn't seem too happy. We just sold his business for $200 million. And Rich, I think being more the academic side of things, started doing some research. And what he found is that today, what we call the three legs of the stool, this business, personal, and financial, this blend and balance of these critical elements in an owner's life. And though that owner sitting in their office certainly had a big liquidity event, he had done no personal financial planning and no personal planning. And so he was bored. About 75% of owners profoundly regret selling their business just a year after selling it. He certainly fell in that statistic. They wrote a book called The $10 Trillion Opportunity about their findings in 2005. And then people said, hey guys, can you start teaching me this stuff and how to work better with business owners in transition? So they founded and created the SEPA, or Certified Exit Planning Advisor credential, and launched that class, their first class, in the fall of 2007. And then off we went. My dad became a SEPA then in 2008. And then the Snider family, me and my dad, came in 2012 to take the business to the next level and bought it from Pete and Rich.
I think that's huge, right? Everybody thinks that, hey, I would like to sell my business. And once I do that, life is just going to be wonderful. But if you don't think about those extra steps, what's the 2.0 after I sell that? Because one of the things that we talk about within the SEPA process and the curriculum is that 80% of the business owner's assets are tied up within their own business. And a lot of that is also their emotional sweat equity that it took to create that. So when they exit that business, they're also exiting a percentage of their identity. And so if you can help them define what's important to them when they sell that, we're going to see a lot more successful exit for them, and also a better lifestyle moving out of business.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume, right, that if we're doing it right and really helping them discover all three elements and then blend and balance them together, you're going to see that 75% of people that regret selling their business go way down, right? Because they had a great business exit, they made a lot of money from it, and they're investing it in other ways, so their family is wealthy. And then the owner personally has a good personal plan. They know what their purpose is, they know what their passions are, and they're deploying them in the different facets of your life, right? Whether it's in your family, whether it's your hobbies, or maybe even buying another business or advising other owners on how to sell their business. You're just a lot more balanced, I believe, or blended in life. And so I totally would agree. I mean, that's the end goal for sure.
Absolutely. So I'm a CFP and also SEPA as well. And I really thought that the curriculum that when I took the SEPA program was really more of like a real world education. And so for those business owners that are looking to hire or get a consultant that's a SEPA, what does that curriculum look like under the hood that can show a business owner how a SEPA can serve them effectively?
Yeah, so the curriculum that we look at the Certified Exit Planning Advisor program goes very broad, but not very deep, and intentionally. I think one of the biggest thing owners and advisors learn throughout the process is teaming is absolutely critical. That it is really whole ecosystem of it as advisors. So the Certified Exit Planning Advisor is trained within the Value Acceleration methodology across 16 modules through 11 different instructors that they meet throughout the week, and they go through the different disciplines within the Value Acceleration methodology that help a business owner, again, line those business, personal, and financial goals. So we'll do a little personal planning, financial planning, and business planning, including valuation. And then we'll also look at some of the major exit options that the owner has. So when the advisor like you comes out of the SEPA program, they certainly will have their expertise. So I'm an expert financial planner, CPA, growth consultant, but we all come together under the SEPA umbrella because we understand what it takes to significantly drive value in a company and align business, personal, and financial goals. We also understand how to connect people and collaborate with other people, as again, teaming is going to be absolutely critical. So it goes a whole week across those modules and dives deeper through that Value Acceleration methodology.
So one of the things that we also discuss about the SEPA designation is a lot of times they can quarterback the process, right? So maybe you can just validate that a little bit more. And how does that designation differentiate itself from like your CPA, from your estate planning attorney, from a CFP, or anything like that in the marketplace for a business owner?
This is a great question, because I think this is sometimes confusing for owners and advisors alike, because we're still a growing profession. There's 7,000 certified exit planning advisors, but there's 600,000 CPAs and 200,000 CFPs. So still though a growing designation, still pretty young. And so inside of the SEPA community, I guess let's back up. The CPAs and CFPs, those are all one type of advisor, right? CPAs, your accountants; CFPs, your financial planners. They're going to run their lane within their expertise. Perhaps the confusing part when you enter the SEPA world is that there's about 19 different professional disciplines that all hold the SEPA credential. So I could be a growth consultant, a life coach, an attorney, an M&A advisor, a financial advisor. all people that surround the owner in this journey to grow a more significant company. Within that SEPA community, you can kind of think about it as a pyramid. The bottom is a SEPA professional. So they have become a SEPA to have better and deeper and more holistic conversations with business owners. They're educators in some form, and they're connectors of people along the way. But what you asked is that middle part, that SEPA quarterback role. The best way that I describe this to a business owner as is it's like almost like a CVO, a chief value officer. Once we immerse ourselves as owners inside of the value acceleration methodology, you need a project manager, a relationship manager to manage that ongoing process within your business and frankly within your life. So that SEPA quarterback is somebody that then has some additional training to come in and quarterback that role for you, be a project manager, a relationship manager, overseeing the people and the deliverables part of the process. And then at the very top of the pyramid, you have, I think, what many people think the traditional exit planner is, which is this SEPA value advisor. But that person is a very specific person that comes in and concentrates on the business growth or the business mitigating risk kind of path that's inside of the methodology and the many deliverables that are there. But they are going to run that methodology true and true inside of the business owner's life and business.
Absolutely. Well, you'd answered within that conversation or that bit, you had answered a couple of the questions that I have already. So I'd like to get in a little bit deeper on the SEPA advisor influence. So somebody a business owner has involved the consulting process of a SEPA advisor, what does that influence look like to the overall valuation and the transition process of the business? Now, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty significant, right? My dad, who's the author of our book, Walking Destiny, which talks about this journey and this value acceleration process, challenges that you could 10x your wealth. Now, you're going to 10x your wealth probably over a 3 to 5 year period because it takes some time to get these things implemented. But I think it has an absolute massive impact. Not only you're 10xing your wealth, both in terms of growing your multiple and having a higher valuation. But what I don't think people really understand is that exit planning is really business strategy. There's really nothing different. So if you can imagine for a second, if you're a business owner listening, you can have a better and stronger and more profitable business today and a more valuable business longer term. So it's better. It's my business is producing more profits now, and I'm growing the value of my business for when it's time to actually sell it. And so I just think it's a better way of doing business with value in mind. And then take the business out of it. You're having two other elements that you likely as a business owner don't really concentrate on that much if you're like the average owner. Probably not doing a lot of personal financial planning. We're probably not doing a lot of personal planning. So then you blend in these other two critical elements to create this harmony along the way in the owner's life. So you're really creating value across business, personal, and financial goals. And so I just don't think many owners realize that exit strategy is business strategy. There's nothing different. And really that's all influenced by the SEPA or the team of SEPAs that you have coming into your company and life to better it.
And the other thing, what's interesting about business owners is you can either work on your business or in your business. And some businesses are not always turnkey, but maybe that business owner might not see that because it created a great lifestyle for them and their family. Mm-hmm. And so when a SEPA can go in there and look at the value acceleration process and say, hey, this has been a great business for you, but it might not be successful for the next person down the road unless we create some processes and increase the value, which will obviously increase overall valuation in the business as well.
100%. Yeah. I mean, getting that intellectual property out of the owner's head and into, playbooks, standard operating procedures, documentation, absolutely critical. Because that's really, we talk about this a lot in our community. Those are really those intangible capitals that could equate to nearly 80% of the company's value. So getting them out of the owner's head and in to a playbook I think is absolutely critical path.
Sure. So let's dig a little deeper in that. Earlier, you had stated personal, financial, and business goals. Can you discuss how a SEPA advisor can help align those personal, financial, business goals of a business owner during the exit planning process?
Yeah, sure. So at the kind of baseline level, right, everything starts, the SEPA would come in and do some type of assessment. And we would look across not just your business, but again, we're looking across all three legs. We're assessing these kind of intangible elements and goals that you may or may not have right now. Once we identify what we have or what perhaps we don't have, we can obviously then begin to dive into a plan. So we're going to start with some maybe long-term visioning exercises, right? We're going to say, take the business out, take the personal financial portfolio out, and then take me as a person out, personal planning out, maybe 5 years, where do we want to go? We're going to break those down into 3-year strategies and then 1-year plans and then 90-day increments. Just like you would do in your business planning, you're making it top of mind and you're integrating it into who you are and what you do on a daily basis. So it really becomes a kind of a part of who you are.
Right. In our industry, time is your greatest asset.
Yes.
Right? If somebody is looking to create a financial plan and might be a little late to the game, the odds of them being able to hit their financial goals are probably not as good as if they actually gave themselves a longer runway to get to that point. How soon should maybe a SEPA advise their business owner into bringing in like a wealth manager to define that gap? So is that kind of the more of the foundation, or is that more in the middle ground, or how do you see where that financial advisor might play the role?
I think that's I think that's a great question, right? And so there's maybe two part there. One, if you're a younger owner on the journey of growing your business, bring them in now. There are two paths that every business owner runs, right? Most of us as business owners understand the business path, right? We hear it all the time. Stop working in your business, work on your business. But what you don't hear enough is stop just living in your life and work on your life. And the life part comes from a financial advisor that combines the personal financial planning with the personal planning, and then typically collaborates with somebody on the business side to bring it all together. So I think the financial advisor is like one of two top advisors that any business owner should have. You should, if you believe in those two concurrent paths, you need to have somebody in charge of the business growth, business mitigation of risks and stuff like that. And then you need to have somebody in charge of the personal planning, usually your CPA or growth consultant, and then your financial advisor. So I would say bring them in early. Now, if maybe you're a more veteran entrepreneur and you're thinking, hey, I'm getting close to exit, you want to bring them in certainly 5 years before that exit milestone that you're trying to achieve. And I say that because I think value acceleration is difficult. I think changing the way you think, I think change is hard for many human beings just generally in life. And so it's going to take you a couple of years just to get going. So now you're 2 years into the process. And then you can start to really strategically build value in years 3 and 4, potentially 5, but you might go to market or sell or decide to transition internally to family or employees or management. In that case, if you have a shorter runway, gotta have at least 3, if not 5 years to make it happen. But you're in luck if you're in your 50s, 40s, and 30s and don't imagine an exit event for a while, or maybe it's not even top of mind for you because you're so young and growing your company. But entering a financial advisor or entering a certified exit planning advisor into your world much earlier will create a better business today and a more valuable one in the future.
Yeah, I was watching a podcast the other day on exit planning, and one of the advisors had stated, why would you want to, you get a pro forma, they say all these things that they can do moving forward. Why would you want to give that next owner or that private equity or whoever's going to buy the business the value, the extra income? Why not work on that now to give yourself that opportunity to sell out in a higher valuation?
Well, and I think it goes back to what we were talking about just a moment ago. If you're doing that kind of stuff, absolutely, you're right. You're definitely going to grow value and participate in the upside, but you're likely going to have a better business and more money now. So why wouldn't you just start doing it right now?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's do this, because we've talked about the designation, we've talked about some of the curriculum, we've talked about the process. So how does all of that come together? Could you share me a success story or a case study where the SEPA designation made a tangible difference in the outcome for a business owner?
I always, Keely, I always turn to our own business, right? So if you looked at our business, Exit Planning Institute, we got about 40 employees, 7,000 members across the United States that are credentialed, and another 13,000 members that are a part of the community. And we have 2 owners. Dad is 51%, me at 49%. And and we utilize, the cool thing about having a bunch of SEPAs, right, is that we utilize the SEPAs in our community to help us as owners grow and grow value in and help us manage these 3 legs of the stool. And so I always turn to our own business first as a living example. And I would say maybe twofold. One, the biggest thing that we've done over the last 3 years in particular is decentralize dad from the business. And for the most part, I would say he's about 95% decentralized. He doesn't even have an office here in the office anymore. And he is really focused on his passion, which is teaching. The next two things up for dad is, in particular, is he kind of acts as our fractional CFO, if you will, certainly a sounding board for advice. And then obviously our head of faculty. Those are the next maybe decentralized points. And so you could imagine at 66 years old, if dad can just be collecting what he always calls mail money along the way, as he is hanging out with my mom, who retired, I think, probably 6 years ago and is still waiting for dad to come along. But he can focus on the other passions that he has in his life. I think a really meaningful story that I love to tell is, how do you get your employees thinking alike value creators as well? And through the use of a certified exit planning advisor, we have began to educate all of the employees here at EPI, and obviously us doing some of the educations ourselves too, being an organization that kind of lives this way. Our director of marketing, this is many years ago, maybe 5 years ago, before she was actually in that seat, she was in a kind of a management seat. And I remember it was the first time an employee of mine had talked about what it means to drive value. So she's in an end of the year performance review. And we talk about core values, we talk about key metrics, probably the traditional stuff that you'll see inside of a performance review. We ended up giving her, she had a hell of a year. We gave her a promotion, we gave her a monetary bonus, and then we gave her a monetary salary raise as well. And her name is Paige. And so Paige and I are very close. And so she's got this kind of crappy poker face, right? So you could see something was kind of still wrong. So I said, Paige, was that not enough? Did I miss something? Like, what can I do? Because obviously you're a key player on this team. And she goes, well, I wanted to share this with you because Chris, you and Chris, my dad, talk a lot about how do you create an ownership mindset and how do we drive value, not just drive more income, lean expenses, lean operations, or new leads. So she takes out a sheet of paper from her folder and slides it across the desk, and it's a whole report on how much value she created in my business that year. Not just the X's and O's. So I think it was just a really cool experience for me, her, and the organization to see, because now you have a younger employee in a middle management role thinking like an owner and thinking in terms of both income generation, successful stuff year over year, and value creation, more significant stuff longer term. And now imagine if I could take that, or we as owners could take that and spread it through an entire organization. So whether it's the owner and founder at the top, your directors, your managers, or your employees, we're all thinking about the value that we're creating along the way. And I think those are some of the more maybe immediate benefits in my own business that I see from operating on the value acceleration methodology, if you will, and having it top of mind and surrounding myself with advisors that help us get there.
And isn't that what you want? I mean, gosh, that is just
I would think, right? I would think. I mean, I could tell you, Keith, it's definitely what I want, right? So at 40 years old, and maybe, but if you looked, we do a ton of generational studies. And for me at 40, I'm kind of a cusper between the millennials and the Gen Xers. But if you're a Gen Xer, one of the things you value the most in life is your time. And I think for all of us that are running businesses, we're spending most of our time in our business, but naturally, as somebody that's 40 or 50 years old, we want more time for the other passions in our life. So wasn't it a beauty to decentralize ourselves from the business while the business still grows? We have a meaningful product or service, and we're making good money. And the next generations of leaders are really taking the vision that we originally had and bringing it even more to life than it might be already today. But I think the short answer, I could tell you, yeah, that's exactly what I want. I want a bunch of people who might not be owners in terms of having stock in this company, but do think like owners every day, and they're very intentional about it. And I think there's just a culture vibe that's there. There's a way that we do things, and I think it pays, right? We have a 92% retention rate of our employees, and they just gave us a best-in-class score in terms of company culture. So there is something, I think, unique to a value creator type culture. But yeah, I think that's, whether the owner knows it or not, if you really try to investigate, I think that really that's what I think, to have a safe and secure investment, which is your business. I think that's what we're all after.
Absolutely. So you're the case scenario there, and of what it looks like to be able to transition from a founder to a business that is thriving beyond all employees. I just have one follow-up question there. Because your dad was such an integral part of the
Yeah.
growth, the Exit Planning Institute, can you just give me like a quick blip on how long it actually took him to transition from being the face, the name,
Yeah.
that maybe the everything for with the industry, with the company, to now where he is today, what that time frame looked like?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say we've been at this for about 12 years. So I would actually break it into like three segments of 4 years. There's the first 4 years where Dad and I roll up our sleeves and the business is pretty entrepreneurial and almost startup-ish, right? When we bought the business, there was only about 100 or 120 certified exit planning advisors. So the business is me and Dad. We've rolled up our sleeves just like any other entrepreneur starting or growing a business at that early of a stage, and he's pretty involved. We stabilize kind of 4 years into it, and he starts to relinquish some more stuff over to me so that we can do some of the stuff that he loves the most, right? Speaking, teaching, and writing. So in that second 4 year run, so now we're going in year 8, working towards year 8, Dad writes his first book. He gets all of that stuff out there, and then begins to frankly, you do more personal financial planning. He brings in estate planning, family planning, financial planning, and is able to do some of the stuff that at that age, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and when he's turning 60, that he certainly should be focused on. And then our pandemic hit, which obviously doesn't come up in everybody's life cycle of their business, but it certainly came up for many here today. And for us, it really changed the way we thought about doing business and how we wanted to de-risk and decentralize and not make it all obviously all about 1 or 2 or even 5 people. And so Dad stepped further away in 2021. That's when they named me from vice president to president of the organization, and I reformed my leadership team to kind of take us to where we're at today. So I would say it really took 8 years to get to a place where Dad could fully step out of the business, and over the last 4 years in particular, leading us to the 12th year of being in business together, truly, I think, like really has stepped outside of the business and does not really have an operational footprint here anymore.
So he just didn't wake up one day and say, "Okay, here's the keys to the castle. Go ahead and make it happen."
Well,
I think
Dad's
that
school, man. Dad's old school. He always told me one of my biggest life lessons from Dad is you got to do the job before you get the job. So even though in that second 4 year run, right, from year 4 to year 8, I could tell you I probably felt like I was the president of the company, but there were some proof points right along the way that Dad really needed to see to relinquish all control to the next generation of leaders and owners. And so yeah, he's definitely, and I think the pandemic pivot from in-person education to online education showed the majority owner with it, which is Dad, how much grit our team had, how much creativity and innovation we had. And he said, "Look, I think they got this. I'm gonna pretty much totally step away."
No, I mean, yeah, the pandemic was, there was obviously a lot to that, but I've taken a lot of positivity coming away from that. You start rethinking your business, you start rethinking your personal life, and
Right.
what are the next steps that I want to see? What's going to make me happy moving forward? And
Totally.
by having that SEPA process, you can take those tools and apply that to your own life, and continue to move forward. One of the one of the words that always sticks out to me, and I'm sure you've probably heard it a million times, is Kaizen, right? Which is continuously ongoing improvement. One of the things that I've always heard about the SEPA designation is that we're always looking to tighten up our processes, make things better. And when I had a conversation with a CPA the other day, and he said, in the most recent times, these are the most conversations that I've had about exit planning. And so when you think about the trends of exit planning, and how do you feel like the SEPA program is going to evolve to stay ahead of those trends moving forward?
So I think it's one of the three things that I think make up a best-in-class advisor to a business owner, and so certainly a best-in-class certified exit planning advisor. One of the three things is we are continuous learners. So I mentioned this before when we were talking about the profession. We're still pretty young. I think the AICPA and the whole accounting world was started in something like 1893. Well, we were founded in 2005 with the first SEPA class in 2007. So we're just coming up really on our 20th year. So we're still a pretty young profession, which means it's still a young and new way a young and new way to think. So I think continuous learning has to be who we are, because as more and more owners adopt the methodology and bring it into what they do and work on their exit strategy more actively, guys like me and you in the advisory space are going to learn more as it's applied. So it's continuously evolving and learning. So you have to want to learn and evolve with it. And it just so happens that perhaps maybe as an education company, we're a little biased towards it, but one of the core values of our organization is purposeful growth. So naturally, the people that are leading this organization internally here are people that lean into growth opportunities and believe in continuous and evolved thinking. So I think it's absolutely critical that we internally at EPI and folks like you, boots on the ground, working with owners inside of the SEPA community, continuously provide feedback and continuously evolve in the way that we need to help owners, again, build more significant companies. So I think growth and evolution and feedback and learning has to just be a part of who we are.
One of the things my CPA curriculum was from chapter 1 to taking the test was 18 months. So you take the test, you pass, and you're like, now what? Okay, what's going on? Yeah. And one of the things that I would say the exit planning does well are these chapters, right? Yeah. You have a community in your area that allows you to get together, whether it's virtually or whether you're close enough to meet with these chapters, which I think is groundbreaking when it comes to a designation, right? Some people just want the alphabet soup at the end of their name so they can say, hey, I have some kind of designation. Right. How does that assist a SEPA to be able to sharpen their sword?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think one of the beauties about the EPI community is that we're not all financial advisors, we're not all CPAs, right? We're a coming together of 19 different professional designations. So you can come to the EPI program and learn from our faculty directly, but the person sitting to you in that program, at that conference, or at that chapter meeting could be somebody that you can learn and grow from directly right there, because they do something now a part of the whole exit planning ecosystem, but you're on the financial advisory side and they're on the employee ownership side. So we're learning and growing together. And so with a more virtual world that the credentialing program has become, things like our chapter network, bringing this into local communities is absolutely critical. I love it because they're also not just your regular breakfast meeting that I think we've all gone to. They certainly have some topical speakers, a speaker that in lecture styles concentrated on a specific topic. But what our chapters also integrate is case study meetings. So we're going to put a case at the round table, and there might, with 10 people there might be 4 or 5 different professional disciplines, and we're all going to dissect it. I think it's a much deeper way to network, because perhaps me as a growth consultant and you as the financial advisor looking at the same case, we see how we're both intaking it and how we look at it. So not only am I learning from you, but I'm building a different and perhaps deeper type of relationship with you to say, look, I knew I liked Keith, but now I know how he thinks. And I'd love to bring him in on an engagement. So I think the chapters are absolutely critical to drive that message. And I think the other thing is that's where you get the other 13,000 advisors in the community. I am not a believer that everybody should be a certified exit planning advisor, but I do think the way of the future and the future of business, at least in America, is around a value creator mindset. So we have to understand the professional advisor who's surrounding the owner has to understand a little bit about what it takes to get there. And they can do that by integrating into your local communities, which to your point also have some virtual options. So if I'm sitting here in Cleveland, Ohio, which is where EPI is headquartered, and I think something great is going on in Los Angeles, California, I can tune into their chapter meeting and still via breakout rooms get some virtual networking in at the same time. So I think it's been a pretty powerful community inside of that kind of chapter network that we have.
Those chapters can give the business owner a lot of peace of mind knowing that, hey, my advisors are working with people that understand the process. Not everybody can be everyone to everyone 100%. And everything to everyone. And we can bring in some of the best in the industry to assist that business owner with helping them getting to a successful exit.
Totally agree. I think that as an owner myself, knowing that my SEPA is active inside of that community, they're also getting introduced to different types of advisors along the way. So if they learn by playing some golf with me or shooting some pool or whatever our local watering hole or favorite thing to do might be, is that I have a marketing problem, they could likely dive into that chapter network or dive into the EPI community overall and say, look, there's a couple of people that specialize in marketing strategies for manufacturers, and I'm able to make that connection for the business owner. But I'm just the owner's financial advisor. I'm not doing anything with that. I've just put some people together. So I think community building, connecting of people also is absolutely critical, but something that I think those chapters certainly do for the local owners and or regional owners as well.
Well, great. Well, Scott, I think that really wraps up our podcast today. I think business owners should find a lot of value in the conversation that we had today. Do me a favor before we head out. Provide that business owner or anybody that's watching this podcast today with any of your social media handles where they can find out more information about the Exit Planning Institute if they think that that might be something of value to them.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So the easiest thing to go to is earncepa.com. That's earncepa.com. Or if you want my story and my value acceleration experience as an owner myself, just pop on a LinkedIn and search Scott Snider. You'll find me there. And I typically try to share events and things that are going on in my life as an owner who's living the value acceleration methodology, if you will. So either way is great. And I appreciate you giving me the invite to come on.
No, absolutely. Thanks for your time. And audience, yeah, if you guys have any further questions or want to have a deeper dive on anything that we've talked about today, once again, you can reach me at primeportfolioplanning.com, also on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And Scott, thanks again for your time.
Thanks, man. We'll see you soon.
Keith Galicia is a registered representative with and securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision.
Scott Snider is not endorsed by or affiliated with LPL Financial and Prime Portfolio Planning.